Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Well, today we're taking a look at a brand new Isle of Cats game, and that is the Isle of Cats Duel. Ho, you guessed it, an Isle of Cats game just for 2 players that will last around 30 minutes to play. Well, this is a standalone game set within the beloved world of the Isle of Cats, made especially, as I said, for 2 players. So you are going to go head to head in this cat placement board game and prove once and for all that you truly are the best cat rescuer of all time. And if you have seen or played any of the Isle of Cats games, you will know exactly what you're in for with this one. All this is doing is taking that big box game that we've got with all the expansions and everything and distilling that down into a 2-player experience. That, I must admit, scratches that Isle of Cats itch. So, what do you get in a game of the Isle of Cats Duel? Well, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get inside the game, and then we'll have a look at how to set up and how to play the game. Okay, let's take a look inside. And here we go, of course, some punch boards with them lovely cats on. We got the treasure and of course some fish. Oh, and now what is this? Oh, it's a nice, rather large cloth bag, which is very nice to see. So often games come with bags very, very small that, I mean, I don't have that problem, but anybody with slightly large hands wouldn't be able to get in. But this is a splendid bag. And we got the little go pad, double-sided. Again, always nice to see. Sometimes things aren't double-sided. Nice little pencil. A little cat meeple. I forget what they called, Oshank or something. We have some baggies. And we have a set of cards. And I dare say this is the rule book. Here we have the rule book. It all looks very familiar to anyone who would have played any of the Isle of Cats games. Very nice. And then I believe we have, we have the player boards, which are double-sided. I believe they are different designs on each side. And then this is the main board of the game. And there you go, that's what you get inside a game of Isle of Cats Duel. And oh, look what we have. If you have a kitten, you should place it here while playing the Isle of Cats Duel. How fantastic. And setting up the game couldn't be more straightforward, but the first thing you will need to do, obviously, is punch out all the cats, and all the cat tokens go into the discovery bag. So it's just the cat tiles to go in, not the treasure tiles. So there you go. there's your discovery bag all ready. So first we put the island board into the center of the table. And then you take the Orshak meeple and put that into the top left space of the island. So we would put it here. Next, we shuffle the discovery cards and place them in a face-down pile to the left of the island. So give these a good old shuffle. Pop those there. Next, we place the treasure tiles next to the board. And the rules suggest to put them into little piles so that they are easy to pick out when you're playing the game. And next we will draw 3 cat tiles from the discovery bag at random and place them to the right of the island board. Of course you would need to give your cat tiles a good shuffle and then 3 at random. And put all the fish tokens into a little pile as well next to the board in easy reach of the 2 players. And set your discovery bag off to the side, again in easy reach of both players. Finally, each player receives 1 boat board and 3 fish tokens. And then you're ready to play the game. That's how quick and easy it is to set up. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the player boards are double-sided and each player may choose which side to use, and players can choose to use the same side or different sides if they wish. And first, just to mention your boards. Now, every square on your board is part of a room, and each room you can identify by looking at the little icons in each of the little squares. And you can see on this diagram here that this board has a room here, a large area room there, red in the middle, a room here, here, and there. And as you can see on the opposite side of the player board, you can see the ship spaces are arranged a little differently. But again, you can see exactly what rooms are on your boat by checking out the icons that are on the board. Now, on the boat, there are also some coloured treasure maps, and you can use these to unlock some treasures. And to do this, if you place a cat tile on a treasure map icon and the colours match, and that is if you put a green cat onto a green treasure map, then you instantly take any one of the 4 treasures and place them onto your boat. Now, very briefly, a quick little note about tile placement, and this is the same for both cats and treasure tiles. You can flip or turn or orientate the tile in any way you wish, but you must ensure that the tile is within the boundaries of the boat and that it also covers all the squares. So you can place the tile like this because it's outside the boundary, and you also couldn't place it like this because it's not covering the squares properly. If I wanted to place it there, I would have to place it like that. Now, in the game, you can place your first tile anywhere on the board, but then after that, the next tile you place, again, whether it's a treasure tile or a cat tile, has to be placed so that it is touching the previous tile. And you cannot overlap tiles. That's another thing as well. So if I wanted to play this one here, I can make sure it's touching. Now, touching does not mean diagonal. You cannot have them diagonal because they are not classed as touching. So I could lay this one in a number of different ways, so long as it's within all the borders of the boat there. Continue then in this manner as you play the game. Now, Isle of Cats Duel is played over 4 days, or 4 rounds if you will, and during each day the island is filled and players will rescue cats, read lessons and find treasures as they try to fit everything in their boats. And at the start of each day, or at the start of each round, then the island must be filled with new discoveries, and that's cats and cards. And to do this, you would simply get your bag of cat tokens, give them a good shuffle, and then randomly draw cat tiles out from the bag and place them randomly onto the cat spaces on the board. So there's a space there, there's a space there, here. And if the Osha cat is covering a space, simply pick that up and pop the cat tile underneath. And then you will need to fill the discoveries out. So just simply draw cards at random and add them to your map board, like that. If on your day your Osha cat had ended on one of the discovery spaces, instead you just simply place the discovery card underneath. And now with the island all set up, players now take turns moving the Osha figure and selecting discoveries and performing any number of fish actions they can afford. So at the start of your turn, you must move the Oshak figure 2 spaces. And it must be exactly 2 spaces, and it cannot move back on itself. And you will see there is some handy little cat paw prints to show you what spaces are adjacent. So, for example, at the beginning of the game, the Oshak could move here and then to here, for example. Now it has to move 2 spaces and it cannot double back on itself. So you couldn't move to here and then back onto there, for example. You have to move 2 spaces. Now after completing your movement, you can perform one selection action and any number of fish actions. And you can perform fish actions before and or after your selection action. And you may perform the same fish action multiple times. So the selection action, you can select one discovery, that's a cat tile or card, that the Oshak figure has touched during this turn. So for example, if I started here and done my 2 moves here, I've started on this one and touched that one. I've touched that one, and now I am touching this one at the end. So I can choose any of these that the cat has touched. So I could, for example, take this, or I could take this card, or I could take this cat tile. Now if the cat tile you selected does have a little fish icon on it, then you would simply take a fish icon from the supply and add that to your fish supply. Now should you choose to take any of the discovery cards, there are yellow treasure cards, and you would simply select 2 treasures from the supply and place them onto your boat, following the normal placement rules, and then discard the card. And there are purple instant cards, and you would simply follow the card's instruction and then discard the instant card. And finally there are the lesson cards, which are the blue cards, and you would take these and place them next to your player board, and at the end of the game, if you satisfy the conditions on the card, then you will score the points indicated on the card. So for example, this card here is worth 7 points if I have the most treasures at the end of the game. Now you have 4 fish actions, which are displayed in the top right hand corner of your board as a reminder. You can spend 1 fish to move 1 extra space. So this allows you to move the Oshak figure extra spaces and increasing your options for your selection action. Or you can spend 2 fish to jump anywhere. But if you do this, the only places that you are touching are the space where you start from and the space where you finish. Or you can spend 2 fish to take 1 treasure, and you simply take any 1 treasure from the supply and immediately place it onto your boat. Or finally, you can spend 3 fish to choose 1 extra discovery. So this will allow you to choose an extra selection on your turn. But don't forget, you must still have touched a discovery while moving the Oshak figure to choose it. And a day ends, or a round ends, when the island is empty or both players have chosen not to perform the selection action on consecutive turns. So at the end of the turn, you should simply check, is the island empty? If it is, then you move to the clear the island phase. If it's not, then you go on to step 2. Did you perform a selection action? If yes, then it's the other player's turn, beginning with their movement action. But if you didn't take a selection, then you have to think, did the other player perform a selection action on their last turn? If yes, then the other player's turn begins starting with their movement action. If not, this means that you both have passed on consecutive turns, in which case we move to clear the island phase, regardless of what's left on the island. So whoever went second this round is now the first player and must select one of the remaining cat tiles by the side of the island board and place it into the discovery bag. And if there are no cat tiles by the side of the island to select, then the game immediately ends and you move to scoring. Otherwise, place any discoveries that are still on the island back into the box and start the next day with the set up the island phase. And once the game is played for 4 rounds, then the game ends. And each player should add up their scores, and the player with the highest score will win. And just like the fish actions, this is noted on your player board on the bottom right hand corner. And the scoring is quite straightforward. You will get -1 point for each visible rat on your boat. You will get -5 points for each room that has not been completely filled. And a filled room is one that has no visible squares. And then finally you get to score some positive points, hurrah! And you will get points for each cat family you have. And by cat family, what they mean there is cats all sharing the same colour. So for example, if you've got 3 cats in your family, you'll score 8 points. If you've got 4 cats, you'll score 11 points. 5 cats, you will score 15 points. And if you have more than 5 cats in the family, you score an extra 5 points for every additional cat in that family. Now what do we mean by a cat family? Well, if we had this red cat on the board, there's just one of them, and that's not enough to form a family. If you had another red cat touching, you've now got 2 red cats, but that's not enough for a family. But if you did have 3 red cats touching each other, then you have made a family of 3, and at the end of the game you will score 8 points. If you were able to get another cat, and don't forget they all have to be touching, so I got 4 cats in this family now, which will score me 11 points at the end of the game. You would score nothing for 2 or 1 cat. And finally then, you will read any lesson cards you have collected, and that's the blue cards. And if you have completed the lesson, then you would add those points to your score. You do not lose points for failing to complete a lesson, so that's okay. Then the player with the highest score will win, and if there is a tie, the player with the most fish will win. And if both tie players have the same number of fish, then both players win, and all cats are happy. And that's it. That's how you play a game of Isle of Cats Duel. Well, there you have it, the Isle of Cats Duel. A cracking little 2-player game experience of its bigger brothers and sisters, the Isle of Cats board game. If you enjoyed the Isle of Cats board game, then you are certainly going to enjoy this. Now, you may well be thinking, there's a lot of duel games being produced at the moment where they've taken an existing game and doing a 2-player version of it. And you may be thinking, well, what's the point? Is there any point? Is this game for you? Well, if you already own the Isle of Cats, the board game, you can play it at the lower player counts, of course. But there is something special about having a nice 2-player version of it. And equally, there could be people out there who could not afford to buy the big box version of the game, but instead would be quite happy to play a smaller 2-player version of the game. And that's where I see this being a lovely thing for someone to pick up. We've got all of Frank's games, and I must admit it was a no-brainer for us to pick this one up because we do play an awful lot of 2-player games. So rather than pull that huge box down off the shelf and give myself a hernia, it's far easier to instead pull this down off the shelf and not give myself a hernia, and instead give us a lovely little two-player version of the Isle of Cats Duel. And as such, I think it's a cracking game to pick up there. A big Fun with Boxes thumbs up for the Isle of Cats Duel. Well, as always, thanks very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed taking a look at the Isle of Cats Duel with me. If you did, please consider hitting the old like button and also hitting that subscribe button. That would be really fantastic of you, and it would help to grow the channel. And in the meantime, please do take care, and bye for now.